For our Be the Change segment this month, we are featuring Feeding America, the nation's largest domestic hunger relief organization. Together with individuals, charities, businesses, and government, their goal is to end hunger in our country. I've invited the Director of Communications, Zuani Villarreal, to tell us more about this organization. We're also going to discuss the state of hunger in our country, how this affects our nation's children, and what we can do about it. Welcome to the show, Zuani.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. How many of our fellow countrymen, the citizens that are in our country, how many of them go hungry each day?
Well, here in America, I think hunger is one of those invisible problems. People don't realize how many people struggle to get enough access to nutritious food every day. So according to the USDA's Food Insecurity report last year, it was about 37 million people in the United States that struggle with hunger. And that's also includes more than 11 million children. These 37 million people, through our Map the Meal Gap study, we know that they live in every community in every county in the United States. And we know that they need our help. So it's 1 in 9 people, 1 in 7 children that face hunger.
That's a lot for one of the wealthiest nations on the planet. So talk to me about our nation's children. You said 11 million children in our country. That's a big number. How does hunger affect a child who goes without food?
Well, it's very important for children that we do everything we can to make sure that they have enough nutritious food as they're growing and developing. Going to school, we want them to be hungry to learn and not hungry for food. So hunger can affect them in so many different ways: behavioral, physical, physiological development. All of that stuff can impact the child's development if they don't have adequate nutritious food. And I want to go back to say that 37 million people, they're not what you would typically think are the hungry. A lot of people associate homelessness with hungry, but that is a small percentage. So those 37 million people and 11 million children, they're our neighbors, they're our coworkers, they're family. We go to church with them. We can ride the bus with them to work. They're everywhere, and they just are struggling month to month, day to day, to put enough food on the table. And that's why Feeding America and that network of 200 food banks that we work with is here to help end hunger.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what your organization does then. You talk about it being a network and a food bank. What does that mean, and how are you helping our neighbors?
Well, as you said in the introduction, we are the largest hunger relief organization in the United States. We are the number 2 nonprofit according to Forbes' list of top 100 charities. We are a network of 200 food banks that serve every county in every state, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. Through those 200 food banks, we're providing food assistance to more than 40 million people. We are serving every state, every county, and we are partnering with more than 60,000 meal programs and church pantries and soup kitchens to provide that food assistance to the people that are turning to food banks for help.
Tell us what a food bank is. Just kind of break that down for us. What can somebody expect when they understand what that is?
Yeah, so at the national level, I would say Feeding America is like the association of food banks, right? And then a food bank at the local level would be like a distribution center that acquires and distributes truckloads of food donations. They work with everybody in the food industry, from farmers and growers to manufacturers and retailers, restaurants and caterers. So they're gathering and collecting all those food donations into that central hub, where it's then being distributed to those food pantries and church pantries and meal programs that are giving the food out directly to the people in need. So the food bank is kind of that distribution hub. Feeding America at the national level, we're helping and supporting, working with partners and growers and food donors at the national level, corporations, et cetera. And the local food bank is that hub there at the center. Some food banks also do direct distribution and nutrition education as well. So if, for example, rural hunger is something that we're trying to address, and maybe there's not an organization or a pantry in a certain community, in a certain county that we can partner with, food banks will do a direct distribution, and something like a mobile pantry is what we call it. And they'll send a truckload of fresh and perishable food, set up a distribution maybe they'll partner with a church and set up in a parking lot, and the community knows to go there to get some food that they need.
Got it. I understand food waste is a big problem. Is there a way that you guys, Feeding America, is supporting to take the food that's being wasted and then get it to the people who actually need it?
Well, absolutely. So 72 billion pounds of food goes to waste every year here in the United States. That's a lot of food. And again, if I remind you guys, it's 37 million people that are facing hunger. So if we can help tackle one issue, I think we can help support the other. Feeding America is the largest hunger relief organization in the United States, but we're also the largest food rescue organization in the United States. So through those partnerships with national retailers, with food donors, with farmers and growers, we are working to rescue food that would otherwise end up in landfills. And this is perfectly good, nutritious food that for one reason, for a matter of logistics or sell-by dates or packaging mistakes, might not end up on the shelves at a grocery store. But it's perfectly good, and it'll go on the table of a family that needs it.
From a consumer perspective, from just the everyday Joe who's listening right now, what can they do to help the food waste problem? I mean, what is there anything that we could be doing better?
Well, there's lots of things that a consumer can do around the food waste issue. One, first and foremost, just in their own home, just be mindful of the food that they purchase and the food that they eat, and to reduce waste, right? So just be conscious of that. But at the second and third things that they can do is just ask their local retailers, ask they're connected to food businesses, if they do donate to the food bank any unsold, any unused product, connect them to the food bank. Tell them the food bank is here to rescue food and to get it to the hands of families that need it. And then just raise awareness about the issue. So, and supporting the local food bank as well. Food banks need those trucks and those drivers to go out and about and go pick up those food donations. So support your local food bank, and then volunteer as well. So volunteering at food banks is something that everybody can do. Millions of volunteers visit food banks every month and donate millions and millions of hours of volunteer labor. And food banks can't do what they do without the help of volunteers. So volunteers help sort that donated product that is rescued, that is recovered. They sort it, make sure that it's still good and packaged and labeled correctly and edible and nutritious. And they'll put that together into food boxes that'll go out through that network of pantries and agencies. So there's a variety of different ways that people can connect. And I encourage them to go to feedingamerica.org. There's a food bank locator right at the top of the page. You enter your zip code and you find your food bank and you learn how to get involved.
Excellent. Yeah, I love the idea of volunteering, and if you have a family, involving them in it to see the benefits of helping your neighbor in need, because I feel like that's a bigger conversation and one that I'm excited to be a part of. Let's talk about how donations and money are used to support your organization. You know, this as we talked about before we started, Zuani, a lot of this segment is about we've gotten to a point in our lives where we really want to give back and help our country and our neighbors thrive. So what happens when we donate to an organization like yours?
Well, first, I want people to understand that what we're trying to do is end hunger in America. And everybody can think about the food that they eat, and everybody needs food, water, and air to survive. So hunger does not discriminate. Hunger does not take a vacation. Hunger occurs year-round here in the United States. And all of us can sympathize and empathize with families that are going without. So what individuals can do and what happens when they support Feeding America, for us at the national level, for every $1 that we receive, we're able to distribute and help provide at least 10 meals to people in need through that network of food banks. Food banks are incredibly efficient. We use volunteers. We use volunteer labor wherever we can. We scrimp and scrape to make sure that everything that we're doing and those dollars that we receive is going to go and put food on the table for the people that we serve. Incredibly efficient at the local level. Administration costs are minimal percentage, less than 10% typically, 2 to 3% is the average for food banks. So your $1 donation to a food bank and to Feeding America goes a long way to help put food on the table.
Excellent. Yeah, guys, when you research organizations like this and you look into them, what Zuani's talking about is the majority of the money you're donating is going to solving the problem, not to staff, administration, marketing, advertising, etc. Things like that help it really make the impact. So I appreciate you with the transparency there, Zuani, and helping us understand. Can you share some positive results that your organization's had over the past, 5 to 10 years as you guys have grown? I feel like I see your logo everywhere, which is great.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the results you guys have had and how you're marching towards that mission of ending hunger.
Yeah, so that vision of a hunger-free America is what we're marching towards, right? And we measure progress through a variety of different ways. And I mentioned before that USDA food security report. That's something that we look at every year when it comes out in September. We also take that research from USDA and we do our own number crunching, adding Census Bureau information, Labor Bureau information, and we get our study called Map the Meal Gap. So Map the Meal Gap tells us what the food insecurity rates are for every county in the United States. And we're looking at that and we kind of overlay the food distribution from our food banks to see how many pounds are being distributed in this county versus that county, how many people in need are here versus there. And food banks really look at that as kind of a way to do a strategic map of where they can focus efforts to get to the people in need, find those pockets of families and individuals that we aren't reaching at this point. So what do we need to get to them? Do we need another truck and a driver? Do we need to seek out food partnerships in those communities? What else can we do? So we track and measure that constantly and on an annual basis. That Map the Meal Gap and the USDA food security report really guide our work. We know this latest report from USDA told us that the food insecurity rate dropped for the first time to pre-recession levels. Now, the recession was over 10 years ago, but it took that long for the levels to go back to that from more than a decade ago. So recovery is slow and it's a process. And as our food banks improve and increase their operations, we know that there's still people out there that are still struggling and our work is still needs to be done. That's still 37 million people that need our help.
Absolutely. A lot of work, and it's a great mission, too. I found your organization through Tony Robbins. I'm a big fan of what he's doing. How has support from him and I guess the work that's come from that helped your mission?
Well, it's incredible the support that he brings to the table, but so many people, individuals, corporations, volunteers, advocates, everybody comes to the table to help people in need at Feeding America. And by helping to raise funds and match dollars or volunteer their time or advocate to elected officials to support strong nutrition programs, everybody has a place at Feeding America. Everybody can help raise that awareness, raise funds, volunteer, and give back. And like you, sharing our story, sharing what Feeding America does is helping us hopefully to get more people involved and learn about our organization and figure out how they can connect.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Can you speak to some of the individuals that might work at a company, a larger organization, about how they could support Feeding America or get them involved in opportunities to support Feeding America?
Well, there's, donate food, time, and money. They're the three things: time, talent, treasure. You can volunteer and want to serve on a board for your local food bank. You can organize volunteer opportunities for your business, your corporation. They're incredible team building activities. The sorting in the repack rooms at food banks are so much fun. And there's a lot of competitive spirit there as well. So that's always great. And it's great team building for corporations. And just be a leader and use your voice and your that opportunity, again, to raise awareness about the issue, not just to your employees, but maybe to your community at large if you so feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Well, this is a problem that's in our country that I think a lot of us can get behind. We've maybe felt hunger in our lives, but not to the extent that our 37 million neighbors are feeling each day. Yeah. So let's all take that thought and see what we can do to support an organization like this, Feeding America, with our time and our money and our voice, like Zuani said. So Zuani, tell us how people can connect with Feeding America and consider donating.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Anybody that wants to learn more about Feeding America and how they can find their local food bank or support at the national level can visit our website, feedingamerica.org. On there, there's a food bank locator, so you can find your local food bank and connect with them. Or you can make a donation, but feedingamerica.org is the place. Also, if you are curious about what hunger looks like in your community, you can find the map, the meal gap study there. Look up your county, enter your zip code, and find out what the reality is there. And as I mentioned, and what food insecurity is, what facing hunger means is that maybe as a parent, you're skipping meals to make sure that your children get enough to eat. Or maybe the child only meal is at school, that breakfast and free or reduced price breakfast and lunch. And for a senior, they're making tough choices of, do I get this medication that I need to manage my blood pressure, blood sugar, or do I get food? So the tough choices that people are making every day here in this country is something that we together can solve with enough people that want to make hunger unacceptable.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing this message. It's an honor to speak to you, someone who's dedicating their career and their life to solving a really important problem here in the United States. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy.